Hey, as you are finding your seat, would you fist bump somebody and tell them God's got something in store for you today? God has got something in store for you today. But you've got to guard your heart. You got to guard your heart. Would you slap somebody on the knee now? Tell them, guard your heart. Guard your heart. Tell them, don't hurt them. Just slap them on the knee. Tell them you need to guard your heart. Hey, peeps, thank you so much. I had a couple weeks off, and it was so refreshing. Thank you so much to Mackenzie, my wife, and Pastor Fury for preaching. I just needed some time. You know, we push hard all fall. I know some of you think all I ever do is show up here and preach, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff to do. And so we push hard, but I need a break before we go into Christmas season. I need to come in fresh and strong, and it's so good for me to do that. So thank you for allowing me to do that, and thank you for allowing me to preach to you today. I'm super pumped to get to the finale message of this Wonder Women series. You gals have been so helpful. Thank you so much for the ways you've interacted with some of my questions on social media. That's been super illuminating for me. I've learned a ton from you ladies. And I thought as we got into the final message today, we just review where we've been so far. So the first weekend we talked about the fact that a Wonder Woman allows Jesus to speak for her. It's not that she can't speak for herself, but she knows the entire world is so trying to define her and tell her who she is. She says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have God define who I am. He's going to decide what's true about me. Then on week 2, we talked about the fact that a Wonder Woman takes action to bring God-sent help when all hope is lost. A woman is a solution that God has put on this planet in all kinds of contexts to bring God's help just at the right moment of need. Then the next weekend, my wife Mackenzie talked about the fact that a woman of discernment can keep her head when everybody else is losing theirs. That's how she stays centered. That's how she keeps focused on Jesus and his agenda in any particular situation. And then Pastor Fury, Pastor Armand, last week he talked about, he didn't really say it this way, but you know what I took away from it was that a Wonder Woman, when she's waiting on a warrior man, the last thing that she needs is an underdone turkey. That's the last thing she needs. So today, I want us to talk, my dear sisters and mamas and daughters and all the men you brought with you. I want to talk about the heart, and I want to talk specifically about guarding our heart against this horrible foe that you ladies know about, comparison. Now, I asked a lot of different questions over the past 5 weeks, but it seems like comparison came up in every time I asked a question. Like it was the ultimate thing that people just can't get off this thing, comparison. And as I talk to ladies, I feel like I'm figuring out when they say comparison, they're not talking about something scientific or something clinical. It's not like you're very objective and you're just weighing this and this is these features and this says these features. No, when you guys are talking about comparison, it seems to me most of the time you're really talking about the feelings that these comparisons produce and maybe some of the darkness it produces. It produces feelings of envy and jealousy and like I don't feel good about myself now because they're all that and they're that good thing. And so really we're talking about, yes, comparison, but really about jealousy. And I want to talk to you about the heart of comparison. See, at the heart of comparison, at the very center, at the core of it, the heart of comparison is a problem of our hearts. It's really something that's going wrong here. And I can think it's out there. I can think it's you. I can think because you think you're so pretty or because you're so successful or you think you got all that going on together, but it's really about something going on here. And Solomon warns us about this. Solomon, some of you know, for a time he was the wisest person on earth, at least in his younger years, and he contributed in major ways to what's called the wisdom literature of the Bible. Books like Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. And he makes this statement that's almost outrageous, but I want you to hear it. Proverbs 4:23, he says, guard your heart above all else. Like whatever else you do, Wonder Woman, Superman, whatever you do, you need to make sure you guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. Are you for sure about that? That sounds pretty, it determines the course of your entire life. If you don't guard your heart, Many of you know, for those who are watching, maybe in the future sometime, not now, this past week was the week when sexual allegations about Matt Lauer really went public. This past fall, a lot of stuff about Harvey Weinstein, all this stuff is just kind of coming out right now, and nobody doesn't know about this. And you look at some of the things that these folks did, the actions they took, the mistakes and foolishness that they did, and you say, how could you do that? Like, how did you even get there? How could you ever think, number one, that was a good idea, and number two, that you wouldn't get caught? Like, how did you ever think that was going to work? And I feel like if we just go backwards in time, if you keep going backwards and keep going backwards, there's a moment where their heart says, should I do this? Should I embrace these low-level sinful ideas? Should I do it? And the heart is not guarded. And it says, yeah, no, I feel like I can get away with that. And so their heart inches a little more and a little more. But it started with the heart way back in the day at some point when they made a decision, yes, I'm going to go this way. And I know that that's an outrageous example, and we don't feel like we're ever going to go there. But this plays out in your own life too. If you think about, okay, if you're in your 20s, and you've been really hurt, you've been really wounded, maybe your parents didn't do some things right, maybe someone you really love betrayed you, and you just get hurt, you get wounded. How many know that if you go a couple decades, if you get into your 50s and you didn't deal with that and you didn't try to get that thing fixed, you're going to be bitter in your 50s, man. Like, because you didn't guard your heart, you didn't get that thing healed and fixed and unjacked up. And so Solomon's advice to all of us men, all of us ladies is, whatever you do, make it your priority. Guard your heart, because, listen, Jesus talked about the enemy like he was a real person. So whatever you believe about the enemy, just know that Jesus believed in him, and according to Jesus, this enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And if the enemy is going to do anything to a Wonder Woman, this is what he's going to do, because a Wonder Woman's strength is her heart. Isn't that what's special about ladies? Isn't that what you love about women? I mean, gals, you're pretty and you're awesome, but what's so awesome is your heart. Your heart of motherly love, of nurture. Your heart is wonderful. And if the enemy is going to take out anything, he's going after your heart. I mean, you know this. You've seen ladies like this. Man, they're all kind of like they're all crumpled up, because at some point, maybe even in their youth, the enemy got to their heart. And now they can't do to the same level that perhaps they would like to. They can't reach out. They can't love. They can't have the heightened affection and motherly nurturing that maybe they would have liked to, because at some point the enemy attacked that thing. And we can look at, everybody else, but the truth is we've all got this heart that can go wrong. Specifically today we're talking about with regard to comparison or jealousy or envy. The heart of comparison is a problem in the heart. When you compare, here's what we do. We're saying, I lack something. There's something I didn't get. There's something that somebody has. I like what they have, but compared to me, what I have, I don't feel like it's as good as what they have. And it can be all kinds of stuff. It can be their figure. It can be their metabolism. It can be their confidence. It can be their wardrobe. It can be their personality. It can be their popularity. It can be their health. It can be their family. It can be their relationship with their parents. It can be their kids. And we just say, man, if I had that, or if that was mine, or if I would have been given greater apportionments of that thing, if I was ahead like that guy is, if I would have gotten the promotion, man, if I would have had his circumstances, I don't even know how she spends that kind of money. How can someone spend that kind of money on their hair? I mean, I would just do it differently. I mean, that's probably sinful the way she's spending her money. I wouldn't do it like that. And the truth is, we don't know what we would do until we're in that situation. But we like to pretend, and we like to judge people. We just say, you know what, it's just not fair. Why did they get all those opportunities, and like I had all these other bad things that kept me from maybe taking some of the opportunities that I could have taken? I want to encourage you. There's some real spiritual giants even that still struggle with envy, and I want to show it to you in the scriptures. So John the Baptist, remember John the Baptist? He was the forerunner of Jesus Christ. He arrives on the scene first, and he really ushers in revival to the Jewish nation. These people are doing this crazy thing. They're getting baptized, which a Jew shouldn't even need to do because that's for non-Jews. But they're like, man, I'm not into God the way I should be. So he starts baptizing people, and all of his disciples start baptizing people. Well, then Jesus comes along. And John gets the privilege of identifying Jesus. This is the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. And so Jesus starts to have all his disciples, and now they start baptizing people. But one day, John's disciples come back up to John. And they say, John, Jesus' disciples are baptizing more people than we are now. And I just feel a little weird about that because I feel like you were first. So how come you don't get to baptize more people than they do now? And John recognizes this for what it is. Even in these spiritual giants, it is envy. It is they get to accomplish something and we're not doing the same thing, so now we're mad about it. And listen to what John says. This will blow your mind if you just meditate on this. John answered, John 3:27. He looks at his disciple. He says, a person cannot receive even one thing unless it is given him by heaven. A person cannot receive even one thing unless it is given to them from heaven. What is he saying? He's saying, hey, disciples, whoa, slow down. Let's be clear. God is the one who decides who gets what. God is the one who doles out the responsibilities and the roles and the who gets this kind of life and who gets this kind of figure and who gets these kinds of who's, it's, what's, and whatever it's from God. God is the one who decides all this. God gave you your family. God gave them their family. God gave you your physique. God gives you everything. Even when you would be talking about, well, it was my talent and it was my strength that God. Yeah, but even that, God gave you that. Nobody can receive anything but what they've been given from heaven. If you have something, it's because God gave it to you. If they have something, it's because God gave it to them. John is saying God is the decider. Now, here's what's hard about envy and comparison and jealousy. Because, see, I can admit a lot of sin, and it really doesn't even feel that hard. Okay, I can say, yeah, I'm not feeling the right way toward people. I probably have some sinful anger here. Probably my thought life isn't all perfect. It's probably not as pure as it should be sometimes. My mouth sometimes runs and probably gets me into trouble. That's probably sin. But when we say, I'm envious, I'm just jealous. You sound like you're 8 years old when you do that, right? I mean, that's why that's kind of weird. That's harder to do that because her bike is more sparkly than mine. It seems like it's a childish thing to do, and so we don't want to do it. We don't even really want to think about it, much less admit it to somebody. But that's really what's going on, and we can tell because when we're around certain folks, you just get around them and you're really being envious of them, but it manifests more like, I just don't like them. I just can't believe, that she dresses like that. I can't believe, she's so mean, because she doesn't talk to me in particular. She's so mean. I just avoid people. I start to make up stories about them. I start to have certain judgments about them. My heart begins to shut down and get cold, and you kind of become cordial rather than really loving them. And my friends, you know this. We're just jealous. It's really, they got the promotion and you didn't. And so now you feel weird about it. And now you can't really engage the way. They're just ahead of you. And they got a better car than you, and they shop at someplace better, and you're like, well, I want to be ahead of them. And really I'd feel better if I was just a little bit ahead or if I can't be ahead of them, maybe they could just mess up or something. Okay, so when she shows up and she's got a doesn't look very good day, I'm like, come on, Wonder Women, you know what this is. I'm like, now we can be friends. Because now you don't look so good. Or maybe, the next summer rolls around and you see her in that swimsuit and you're like, oh, gained a little weight over the last year, didn't you? Well, now I feel good about me. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that's jacked up, right? It's weird for us to feel good when something goes wrong for somebody else. That's showing us what's exactly wrong here. And what it is really is it's just envy. And here's the first level. So the first level is, I think you're my problem. I look at what you've got and I say, I want that. Man, that jerk. I wish I had that. But here's the trick. It's really not circumstantial. It's not if only I had that stuff, then I'd be happy. Because guess what? If you're following them along and then you finally pull ahead of them, you're like, now I have their stuff. Well, guess what? There's somebody else in front of you again. And now you're jealous of them. Why? Because you brought your jealous heart with you. The problem wasn't them, the problem was here. So at first we think the problem is them, excuse me. But if we go a level deeper, we see the problem is my heart. The problem is something going wrong with me. It's not circumstantial. I'm still here. And so now I'm jealous of her hair. And now I'm jealous of her athletic ability. Because the problem is not them, the problem is me. And that's why I'm envious. And that's why Jeremiah, God sends his prophet Jeremiah, and he says something that is radical, but I think it's even more radical in our day, because every place you go, whatever Hallmark special you put on, or whatever show you're watching, there's a message of, y'all know what it is, right? Just follow your heart. Just follow your heart and everything will be just fine. My friends, that's a lie from hell. I'm sorry, I'm not saying your heart is always wrong. I'm just saying it's not always right. And so Jeremiah, man, he cuts cross-grain right through this thing. This is what he says. He says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? He said, y'all so jacked up, you don't even get it. Like it's beyond you just how your heart can mislead you. I mean, think about this, my friends. If it was really all you ever had to do was follow your heart, why haven't people been doing that the whole time since Adam? And why isn't the world fixed by now if that was true? No, the truth is our heart is sinful and often does foolishness, and that's why God says, don't follow your heart, follow my commands, follow my Son, follow my Spirit. Your heart will lead you precisely the wrong way. It's full of impulsiveness. Follow the Scriptures and the Spirit and the Son. Some of you know this. You want some proof. Okay, so some of you, you're driving along 55 miles an hour. That's the posted speed limit. You see that posted speed limit. As soon as you see that sign, you're like, ain't nobody going to tell me how fast I'm going to go. And you hit the gas and you just pull it up to 60 just to show them that you can do that. My friends, now we know, right? There's nothing wrong with the sign. There's something wrong with your heart because you saw a standard and you said, no one's going to tell me what to do. And so you immediately jumped over that standard because there's something wrong with your and my heart. Nothing is wrong with the sign. So we've got a problem. And the first problem is, I think you're the problem. But the second problem is, really, I'm the problem. And that's what I need to figure out. But there's a third problem. It's a relational problem. But I'm gonna need some helpers to show you what the deal with this problem is. So I need 3 volunteers. I need you to stick your hand up very high. I need 3 volunteers who want a $50 gift card to a spa. I got Eilish right here. I got Aaron right here. And I got Kayla right here. Come on up, ladies. Come on up with me. Would you stand up right here? $50 gift card to a spa. That sounds pretty good, huh? Man, they look so great. Thank you so much, gals. Okay, so $50 gift card to a spa. So what do I got in here? I do have the gift card. This is for Miss Kayla. And some lotion-y stuff. Hello, beautiful. There you go. Hey. That's for Miss Kayla. And that's what we said, right? Come on up here. You get a $50 gift card for the spa. And then for Miss Eilish, well, here's the thing. I'm not going to give her a $50 gift card. Now, what I will do is I'll give her some nice Bath and Body Works soap things. So, Eilish, there you go. Hey, it's not maybe as good as that one. You're totally doing my illustration for me. That's great. That's awesome. Aaron, I know that you came up for a gift card, but instead, I'm just going to give you a nice loofah, okay? So that is what you get. Now, do you feel like there could be jealousy issues between these 3? Think there's any envy going on? If they're going to, does it make any sense for them to be mad at one another? If you're going to be mad at anybody, you should probably be mad at me, right? I'm the one who did it. I gave it to him. How many are kind of secretly hoping there's another gift card behind the stage? I'm going to bring 2 out and give it to the other 2. Yeah, that would totally jack up the illustration, so I'm not going to do it. No, they just get what they get. And what's even worse, y'all don't get anything. You got nothing. At least they got these things. Hey, give them a round of applause. They did great, ladies. You may go back to your seat with the gift you got. Yep, that's it. You get that loofah. Praise God. It doesn't make any sense for them to be mad at one another because I'm the one who gave them the gifts. And it doesn't make any sense to be mad at other people because God is the one that gave them that very thing you're jealous of. God gave it to them. God decided, he said, I've got stuff. I'm going to give differing things to everybody in my own wisdom for my own purposes because I'm all wise and all smart. And you may say, well, I don't think that's very fair. Yeah, I hear that, but can I just shoot straight with everybody? You know, in the Bible, God doesn't really seem to be too interested in what we think of as fair. I mean, I'm just telling you, he just doesn't seem to think that seems very important. And by the way, fairness went out the window in the garden. Now here's the positive end of that, and that is, it doesn't seem very fair to me that Jesus Christ gets to leave heaven and come and live in obedience and then die a brutal death on behalf of you and me, and then we just get all the credit for that. That seems tremendously unfair to me, and yet in God's sight, it is good, and it is right, and it is grace. So whatever God's doing in somebody else's life, check it out. It is good, and it is right, and it is grace, and it really don't matter what we think about it. Because God's always good. Somebody say, he's always good. And here's the thing that John's disciples are doing, because they're coming to him and they're asking this question, why do they get to do that? And what they're really doing, why isn't God letting us do that? Why did God give it to them and not to us? And you see, that's the third level down. First level is, the first layer of the onion is, I think you're my problem. The second layer is, I realize, no, actually, I'm my problem. But then if I go a little bit deeper, there's a further relational problem, and it's a problem with God. And the truth is, I think God owes me something. I think God, he withheld from me. I wanted it. I don't want them to have it. I want to have it. Why do they get it and not me? And God, here's what, if we got really bold, here's what we do. We would have the boldness to say, God, I know that I can't be right about this, but I'm just telling you, I feel like you ripped me off. Because I don't know why they got that call and I didn't get the call. And I don't know why they got that husband and I didn't get that husband. I don't know why they got to do that and I didn't. And God, I feel like if I'm just being straight up honest, you owe me, God. You owe me. And I didn't get it. And my first problem was that I thought it was you. And my second problem was the second layer was I realized it was me. But the third, deeper down layer is, God, I feel like you owe me and you didn't give it to me and now I'm mad. And it's manifesting toward them because they're reflecting something that you gave them that I want. But I'm really mad at you. And it just doesn't seem fair. And God wants to bring every one of us to the very same place he brought King Nebuchadnezzar. This is what King Nebuchadnezzar said about God after a season of discipline. He said, all the people of the earth are nothing compared to him. He does as he pleases among the angels of heaven and among the people of the earth. No one can stop him or say to him, what do you mean by doing these things? And Precious, I know, hey man, I'm not saying that hard work and discipline and thrift and ingenuity and saving your money and doing all these other things, I'm not saying that's not good and God doesn't use that stuff, but I'm saying even behind all that, everything we have is from God. No man can receive anything but what he's received from heaven. And at the end of the day, our problem is, it's really, God, I'm mad because I feel like you ripped me off. I should have had this. Why did you withhold it from me? David, at the end of his life, King David, he's seen a lot of stuff. You know, he had the whole thing with King Saul and Goliath, and then this journey to becoming the king, and then even in his failure, God still has mercy on him. And at the end of his life, after all that he's accomplished, after all he's seen, these are his words. 1 Chronicles 29:12, he says, wealth and honor come from you alone. For you rule over everything. Power and might are in your hand, and at your discretion, people are made great and given strength. All money and power and wealth and greatness, here's what we need to know. It's tainted. Taint yours. And taint mine. That's an old preacher joke, man. I know it's dumb, but it makes a good point. It ain't yours, and it ain't mine, It is God. God distributes as he wills, and we can get mad at God all day long, or we can go one layer deeper. There's one more layer. Remember we said, first, I'm mad at you because I think you did something wrong by being so pretty. Second, I really realize it's me. There's something wrong in my heart. But if I go to another layer down, I realize I'm actually mad at God. And I probably need to admit it to him. And you say, Carter, I'm afraid to tell that to God. I'm afraid he'd strike me dead. You know, the truth is you've already done way worse than that, and he hasn't struck you dead yet, so you're probably safe. You should just go ahead and try it, because God's interested in relationship. He already knows it's true. And there's something that fosters conversation between us and the Lord when we say, God, this is what I'm dealing with, and I need you to dig it out. I need you to dig it out, Jesus. But then we go one layer further, and here it is. We can't love those we're jealous of. You really can't. You really can't. I'll prove it to you. Check it out. 1 Corinthians 13:4 says, love is patient. You know this. You've heard this at 1,000 weddings. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. You cannot be jealous and love somebody at the same time. Now, you can endure them. You can be cordial around them. But you cannot love them. You cannot say, what do they need? How do I serve them? How do I enter in and love them? You can't do that if you are jealous, because jealous automatically in your heart gets you cold, pushes you away. I asked my wife, I said, what is it like, Kenz, when you walk into a room and maybe there's another girl who's threatening or seems very, very beautiful? Like, what's the temptation there? And she said, well, immediately my heart gets icy. And it's just like she's not even trying to. And she gets inward and self-focused and kind of protective, like, well, I'm not going to contribute to that threatening girl. And what does that do? I don't think she's the only one. I think that happens to all of us. Anytime that we have some kind of jealousy or envy or comparison, our heart shuts down. Yeah. We don't pursue relationship with them because we're jealous of them. That means we can't be God's solution to them. Wonder Women, we can't do it. And this shows up all over the place. I mean, let's just look at the stakes here. It shows up in families. Think about mothers and daughters that fight because they're jealous. Is that jacked up or what? I mean, think about in your work situation. There's people you won't even hire because you don't want anyone to be better than you, because you're jealous of them. And so you have a weak team, or people don't tell one another the truth. They can't actually work as a team because there's jealousy going back and forth. Even at the church, there's jealousy going back and forth. And the very people that are supposed to be a demonstration to the world, this is what love looks like. If anybody should have a handle on this, it is the people of Jesus Christ. And yet divisions and hurts, they just decompose before our eyes because why? Because people are jealous. Because they're envious. And we don't want to, but we're mad at God because we say, God, you could have done X, Y, or Z. You could have given me a spouse that doesn't have any addictions. You could have made them live, but you didn't. And now I have to go through life without this thing. You could have given me that awesome leadership position, but you didn't. And so now the truth is I just feel ripped off and I'm mad at you, but I recognize as I go even deeper the problem isn't them. The problem is my heart. Yes, I really think God owes me something, but even further down, and now I can't even love because I'm jealous. I can't love them. And Jesus, I can't love you the way I'm supposed to when I'm walking in jealousy, because the heart of the comparison issue is a problem of the heart, and it's our heart that needs fixed. Good to know there's a divine physician named Jesus. And he's ready to do some surgery. I want to give you 3 points real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Then we're going to be done. These are 3 ways that I feel like if we can get a hold of these, it will really help us get some altitude above the idea of envy. Number 1 is admission. That means we admit it. We acknowledge it. We own it. We just say, hey, this sounds dumb maybe in my own ears, but I'm jealous. I'm envious. That's why I avoid them. That's why I don't want to be around certain people. I'm jealous of their health. I'm jealous of the fact that this woman just has super mom skills. I'm jealous of the fact that this woman over here, I feel like she does 20 things by the time I'm starting one thing. This other gal, it seems like she just says she's rolling in money. Where did all that come from? How did she have all those opportunities? Where'd she get all that? I'm jealous of that, and I admit it. God, I just admit it. Now that's the easy one. Number 2 is a little harder, and that is to confess it. Confess it to somebody else. Confess it, preferably if God leads you, to the very person you're jealous of. This is where we go to them, and it's just doggone weird. Like you just embrace this idea of, I know this is weird. I know I've been weird to you. I know sometimes there's been like a distance between us. I know I'm kind of cold, and I just want to tell you why, and I'm not proud of this. It's just totally dumb, but I'm just jealous. I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous that you have that thing. I'm jealous that you always look so great. I'm jealous of this, that, or the other thing. I'm just jealous, and I want you to forgive me because I don't want this to stop me. I'm meant to love you, so would you just forgive me? That's level 2. Here's the third one. Public celebration. Public celebration when you see someone else enjoying the thing that you wanted. When they've got that position, when she looks just so put together and it's just amazing, for you to say, that's awesome. It's wonderful that your marriage is so good. Yes, I would be tempted to be jealous, but I'm going to choose to override the darker parts of my heart and publicly say, I'm going to tell people about it. I'm going to email you about it. I'm going to text you about it and say, hey man, your idea in the meeting is way better than mine. I'm not jealous that you had the best idea. Great point, man. That was a great thing to bring up. I'm just going to tell you, man, you're doing so good with your kids. I see the way, instead of being coveting the way you interact with your kids or the way you interact with your in-laws or the awesome opportunities that seem to pop up for you guys all the time. You go on these vacations. I don't even understand how you do that. Like, I'm just telling you, praise God. And I'll tell you what, only God could give you all that stuff. Only God could make you so beautiful. Only God could give you that wardrobe. Only God could give you that winsome personality. Only God could do any of this, and what that does is it breaks me into worship. Instead of comparing myself to them and being jealous of them, I'm saying, God, you're awesome. God, you're powerful. Everything you do for everybody is grace, and I give you praise. What a generous, awesome, wonderful, beautiful, tender, loving God you are, Jesus. Wow! How could you ever do that? You're so generous. I will give you praise now. And you see what happens? What the devil wanted to use for our destruction turns into worship. And he's sitting there feeling like an idiot. Hey, let me give you a little secret tip at the end. That thing that you might be jealous of, that you're looking at, you're like, I wish I had that. How many think God has more of that he could give you? He totally does. There's nothing wrong with asking God for that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. What's wrong is when our heart gets jealous. So after you celebrate them, after you say, hey man, you did so awesome, I'm so proud of you, for you to then turn it into a prayer and say, hey God, by the way, you get to be God, you do whatever you want, I'm asking for a little bit of that too. Would you help, me have a better hair day? That doesn't happen often for me. Would you help my family connect in ways that I'm tempted to covet about that other family? Would you help me have the kind of walk with you that I see that gal does? I don't want to covet, but I know you have grace for that, so would you pour a little bit on me as well? Hey, Wonder Women and Supermen, let me ask you some questions. Are you jealous of anybody? Are you envious of anybody? Is there any business you need to do with God first, but then even maybe somebody else? Is there anything that you're annoyed by that actually you need to start celebrating about instead of complaining about? You are well able to conquer this land. Listen to me. Jesus does not leave us little babies. He does not leave us in this low-level living. He wants us at some point to grow up and say, I'm going to put behind me the childish things that he just roll around in. And I'm believing God has a higher level for my heart. And I'm going to embrace it, because the heart of comparison is a problem of the heart, but King Jesus is ready and in and ready to do surgery. Let's bow our heads. God, you want our insides to look like the heart of Christ. And we thank you so much for the good news of your word. We thank you so much for the good, challenging, crunchy stuff that helps us become the people we're supposed to be. And God, now I pray for an extra special anointing on these Wonder Women. and their families and their friends. God, I pray that you would empower them, supercharge them to a new level, to with hunger and passion, pursue the living God and to clear out their hearts and to not settle for this live, foolish comparison. God, help us to bless one another. God, help us to trust that God gets me what's mine. God, would you come do a new work as a result of this series? In Jesus' name, amen.